I'd like to, for the second time, really honor the work that Leyton and Dave and Tammy R., who's my neighbor in Victoria, have done for the last couple of years to get this middle series off the ground. And also super excited that we're now joining in a partnership with UBC, the Ministry of Education, the Rural Education Advisory, and of course, Greater Victoria is still going to remain in that partnership. We're really excited. Our team this year has just grown, and hopefully it'll be super slick for all you that are with us today. Can I get a slide change, Leyton? Are you still running? Point on that. And representing the Greater Victoria School District, I would like to recognize and acknowledge the Songhees and Esquimalt nations on whose territorial land we live, we learn, and today as educators and learners, we do our work together. When I think about connecting to the land and the place that I live, I actually picture the water. I'm most at peace in the water, and maybe because I'm a middle school educator as well, and I always have people coming at me all the time. When I'm on the water, I look for a nice quiet place with not a lot of people coming at me 100 miles an hour. So that's the land and the place that I live at. If you're with us today in this learning community, I'd like to say thank you. You are likely a middle years educator. I'd like to thank you for being that person to 10 to 15-year-olds, that person that many of the current kids will be gratefully remembering you for years and years to come and generations to come. You do amazing work. One of the people that guided me on this path to becoming a teacher and a principal was somebody in those middle years for me. So I'd like to thank you for being that people for the kids that you work with today. So for those who have not met Leyton before, Leyton, although I think you said hello just about everybody that came in, Leyton Schnellert will be with us today, and I could tell you about all the things he does. He's an associate professor at UBC's Department of Curriculum and Pedagogy and the Eleanor Ricks Professor of Rural Education. I'd like to welcome you, although you've already started so off, for being our facilitator today. Leyton, I'm looking forward to the energy continuing throughout the afternoon. So thank you, and thanks for being our facilitator today.
Thanks, Sean. So great to have you on the team this year. I'd also like to begin with a land acknowledgement. I live and I learn on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Silks, that's the Okanagan people, as a settler guest. The Silks Nation is, to this day and every day forward, the rightful caretaker of this territory. It's therefore my obligation to acknowledge, to respect, and to learn from the Silks. Learning knowledge, learning local language, learning local history, as well as from their ongoing relationship to the land and natural world. The Silks have taken care of their homelands for thousands of years, and now that I call this place home, it is also my obligation to aspire towards better understanding of how to engage in respectful acts of decolonization, both personally and professionally. Last year, one of our sessions in this series was focused on place. Land-based learning, place-based learning, place consciousness. And so we had John Harris join us from ST61. We had Mercedes Descharmes and Mia Moutre join us from ST91. And we really looked at this notion of being in place and learning from place is an act of decolonization. And as John talked about, when we heal the land, we heal ourselves and our relationships. And so we recognize in this work that we're doing, we are learning with the land. When we take a diversity stance, we take it together in a place conscious way. And we're just so looking forward to learning where you're from in the chat box. So if you could just say hello in the chat box right now and locate yourself on local territory, that would be wonderful as a way to say hi and as a decolonizing practice. So just say hi in the chat box right now. And if you know the Indigenous territory you're upon, please mention that too. Also part of a place conscious stance is that we as educators are becoming aware of our own locations and our own positions and how we got here. And so part of that is in connection to the land, but part of that is also related to our own histories, our own cultures, for those of us that are settlers, coming to understand and recognize what that means, and also thinking about how can we engage with our learners in ways that are culturally sustaining. And so we're really going to build on this notion of equity and diversity and inclusion this year as a way to deepen our work together, but also to recognize this is the work that we need to be doing. And so I just want to acknowledge that we've begun the work. It's not we need to start the work, it's that we're already doing the work. And now we're deepening our commitments to equity and inclusion and recognizing all of our learners competent, capable, and having incredible funds of knowledge. Over the last 2 years, we've been anchored in middle years philosophy and practice. And I just want to highlight that aspects of middle years philosophy and practice include nurturing and developing our middle years learners' identity. Identity-focused curriculum is at the heart of middle school philosophy and practice. Also, a central notion in our work is valuing diversity and helping all of our students come to value not just themselves, but each other's cultures and backgrounds and identities. And so, again, we aren't starting the work today, we're deepening the work today. And if this is the first year you've taken part in the series, we welcome you into the fold in a way that recognizes that you are doing incredible work wherever you are. And this is a really wonderful place to feel connected to others and to think about what could be, but to also hear what other folks are doing to inspire and deepen your practice. I'm going to pass the torch now to Denise Augustine, who is our lead Indigenous learner in the Ministry of Education and has just been announced as the Superintendent of Indigenous Education for the Ministry of Education. Denise, friend, colleague, co-teacher, fellow wrestler with important, tough issues, welcome to the Middle Years series.
Hi, Siam. Good day, everybody. Thank you, Leyton, for your warm and kind words. Before I share with you a few planned words, I just want to acknowledge how full my heart is and how touched my spirit is as I reflect on the waterfall of acknowledgements of place that happens in the chat. A few years ago, we wouldn't have been able to do that. And I identify as a Hulkaminam woman with mixed ancestry. And what that does for me personally is paints this beautiful, rich tapestry of what it means to be from BC. Much different than the names of the towns and the school districts we're from, because underneath each of those names of nations is a rich language and history and culture. And so I just really want to raise my hands to each and every one of you for like Leyton said, participating in this practice of decolonization. Entha Swialt, Tanitsan Alt Staminas. My Hulkaminam name is Swialt. I carry the name of my grandmother and my great-grandmother on my mother's side. I am from Shmanis First Nation, but like many of our relatives, I have relatives on the mainland and in various places on the island as well. As I mentioned, I identify as a Hulkaminam, a Coast Salish woman of mixed ancestry. I have Portuguese, English, and Hulkaminam ancestry on my mom's side, English, French, and Métis ancestry on my dad's side. And I have 2 grown daughters, and 5 months ago yesterday became a grandma, so I'm pretty stoked about that. And I have to say, folks said that it was great. They weren't lying. It really is great. Little Nova, her name is, just learned to roll over this week, so pretty exciting. I am also really want to acknowledge the Ministry of Education for creating 2 spots, actually, Superintendent of Indigenous Education and an Executive Director of Indigenous Education. And I think what it demonstrates is what the ministry is paying attention to and valuing. It's saying to all of us that this work is important. It's not going away. It's, as a matter of fact, it's amplifying. And so I'm really excited about this opportunity for the ministry to partner with and amplify the good work that's already being done. In many of the conversations we have, we talk about governance and policy and administration and so on. And we also, the conversation is now, or again, deepening to say it doesn't actually matter. All those things are great, good and well, but it really doesn't matter much unless it changes the experience of the learner in the classroom. And so that's why I'm really grateful to for the ministry to be partnering on this work. One of the statements that is at the forefront of my mind is that idea of what do we want in the end? We want all Indigenous learners to graduate with a full spectrum of options. And you can see I'm reading this because that sentence is really important. It was co-created with First Nations and the Ministry of Education. And that's a really important end to keep in mind. It speaks to that idea of equity. Our education system in BC, I've been an educator for over 30 years. I'm proud to be an educator, and we have an amazing education system in BC, unless you're a kid with diverse abilities, you're a child in care, or you're an Indigenous learner. And we've made gains. We've made tremendous gains. The slide that's in front of you right now is the equity scan. And this is the work of Joe Heslop. Before him, Caleb Child and Scott Benwell, who have laid the groundwork and set a framework for us to use to really figure out what do we need to do in our systems to get to equity. Along with this image comes 32 questions for folks to use in their districts to unpack what are the policies, what are the practices, what are the, what do we do with our in our resource, in our financial department that continues inequity? How do we make decisions throughout our system that continue to create inequity, and what can we do to unpack that? Yeah, I think that's all I was going to say about that. So one of the things we need to, it's helpful to know is that we've made amazing progress, and we've seen, our graduation rate for Indigenous learners provincially is up to 74%, which is amazing. It depends on the district, there's a range in there. And what we also see when we look at the longitudinal data is that we've made some really important growth, and then we've kind of plateaued. And what to me that signals is that we've taken the low-hanging fruit, we've done the things that are the easiest to do, and this means now we need to really dig in and go deeper to figure out what's next. And Leyton already referred to some of this work. Could you switch slides, my friend? So it also indicates that we just being able to say I'm not racist isn't enough. We need to also be able to say I'm anti-racist. I'm actively acting against racism in the system. One starting place for folks is to look at this umbrella. This is from Monique Grace Smith's book, Speaking Our Truth, and use it as a self-assessment. This is sort of like the foundational knowledge we all need to have. So take some time, you'll get these slides, I'm sure. Take some time and notice where are the areas for your personal learning, professional learning that you need to dig in, and what are the things that you've already got that maybe you can share. I think that's all. I think I just want to close with one more quote. And I think it really gets to that piece, about our bigger system. And this is the hard work that we all need to be doing together. Justice Murray Sinclair said, if you get rid of all the racists in all of the positions in government, in all of the positions in policing, justice, health, education, I added the education one in, you will still have a problem, because you will have a system that is functioning based on policies, priorities, and decisions that direct how things are to be done that come from a time when racism was very blatant. So I just offer you that to hold on to as you start to invite each other to learn deeply about how do we change what we're doing, how do we work together to learn what to do more of, so that we can make sure every single learner and every single Indigenous learner leaves school with a full spectrum of options. It's up, kasi I'm the CAO. Was there anything else you wanted me to mention, Leyton?
That's magnificent. Thanks.
All
I'm so delighted that we're partnering together this year. And as Sean said in the beginning, working together as the Rural Education Advisory, the Ministry of Education with SD61, and with the Lando Center for Virtual Learning at UBC, we together are hoping to move this conversation forward. And those of you who are wondering, we are recording the session, and you will get a notification once the recording's ready so that you can rewatch or share snippets of the session with your colleagues. We're going to, part of what we do in this series is we pop in and meet each other. So we're just going to go into breakout rooms for about 6 minutes and just say hi and say what brought you here today. If you have a little bit more time, you can also talk about how you're moving forward as an educator in regards to diversity, equity, and inclusion. But it's really just a chance to bring yourself into the space and recognize that this isn't a webinar where folks tell you what to do. It's where we're all doing this work together and supporting each other. So we'll head into breakout rooms for 5 minutes, and then we'll see you back here.